Welcome to Bridge to Local with Affinity Group, the podcast that connects manufacturers to local operators. With deep industry experience and a proven track record of successful partnerships, Affinity Group is your bridge to driving growth and seizing opportunities in food service. Let's build success together, one connection at a time.
What does the future of food service really look like, and who's going to lead it? Welcome to your Bridge to Local. I'm your host, Mindy Kopacz. Today, we're going behind the scenes in the food service industry to uncover the real stories, unexpected career paths, and evolving skills shaping this exciting industry. From climbing the ladder in surprising ways to bringing fresh talent, this episode is all about how we attract, grow, and inspire the next generation of food service leaders. It's not just about food. It's about innovation, impact, and creating a career with flavor. I'm joined by an amazing group of food service rock stars, so let's dig right in. Welcome to our panel of experts.
Erik Baylis with Baylis Hospitality.
Mike Schwartz with IFMA The Food Away from Home Association.
Megan Teates with Affinity Group.
Excellent. So if we think about our journey into food service, how do people find this industry and how do we recognize it as a career path? Speaking personally, I started my career as an elementary school teacher and a alternative school French teacher. Moved away from Buffalo, my hometown, came back and was just looking for something else, something new, something different, and answered a newspaper ad. Kids, look that up if you don't know what that is, for a job in the food service industry, which I had no idea what it was, for a technology company. So I started in a technology space in this pretty niche industry and then blossomed and kind of grew from there. So how did you guys all get your start in the food service industry?
I grew up in South Philly and I went to college out in Arizona. Did not do too well in the college realm. They call it dropping out, I think, these days, or being asked to leave, one or the other. I had an opportunity in Chicago, I thought, that did not amount to anything, but I borrowed $176 from my buddy to move to Chicago. The opportunity, thank you, Joe. The opportunity did not work out, but I decided, I answered an ad as well to work at a place called Bar Louie as a door guy. Worked as a door guy, worked my way up to the general manager. From there, was approached by a gentleman who owned bars across the whole nation and traveled around the whole nation learning from him and learning from the group and worked in a few different cities. Then I found myself with an opportunity back in Chicago. Mainly, I was actually sick at the time, so I had to come to Chicago to go to Rush Hospital to be treated. And at that point, I opened up my own place, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. Mike, how about you?
That's awesome. Yeah, also from Buffalo, New York, so it was good to see some Buffalo folks with us. I went to school at Ohio State and studied journalism. Thought I wanted to be in sports PR or sports journalism or marketing, and interned with the NHL team, the Columbus Blue Jackets, for a year, and thought it was a great gig, but realized it wasn't what I really wanted to do for a living. And so, really then started looking into some market research consulting jobs. And I had some family. I have two sisters who live in Chicago. So I was looking in the Chicagoland area, and actually, it's funny, you mentioned a newspaper ad and Monster.com. I applied on Monster.com for a job, ended up getting it at Technomic. Coincidentally, just saw last week, Monster.com is filing for bankruptcy. I'm surprised it's lasted that long, but, learned food service pretty much from the ground up. I was cold calling independent restaurants, heads of supply chain, heads of marketing, learning the business and the trends that were happening in the industry. Got to work with a lot of manufacturers on some proprietary consulting engagements. Was there for about 6 years, then found IFMA The Food Away from Home Association shortly thereafter. So coming on 11 years now there, and have just learned so much about the industry, all the different players, from the operator side, manufacturer, distribution, everybody in between. And it's been a great ride so far.
Megan, how about you on the sales agency side?
Yeah, so a little bit different track. I went to Clemson University, obviously waitressed and bartended like most do through college. I worked at a restaurant that was on campus that was actually run by Aramark. And I was getting ready to graduate. They offered me a position to move into catering, which sounded interesting, and I didn't really have any other things in line. So I did that, and it gave me an opportunity to take some time, stay in Clemson, figure out my next steps. I had majored in business management, so wide open on where that could go. And so from there, got promoted again. They moved me to a college, and I was running catering for there. Realized pretty quickly operations was not for me, just not long term. And right around that time, a girlfriend that I had gone to high school with, her brother owned a sales agency in South Carolina. It was just 2 markets at the time, North and South Carolina. He reached out, told me a little bit about it, had no clue what it was, went and interviewed. He had gone to Clemson, and our other owner at the time, Donnie Smith, had gone to Clemson. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason I got hired. It sounded fun. You were basically selling food, giving samples out to people, riding around. I had a great territory. So started doing that, did it for 3 or 4 years, still no long-term plans. My husband now, we had gotten engaged at the time, moved to Salt Lake City, so we were out west for 4 years. He's in food service, contract management. He was doing the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City at the time. So I decided I'm getting out of food service. I'm not doing this. There's better things for me out there. I had a couple different jobs, one selling advertising specialty like logo wear, and then another selling security systems. We ended up moving back to the East Coast. I had kept in touch with my boss at the time. And the rest is history. I mean, I started back with them. It's been over 19 years now since my second go around. They call me a boomerang. And have had every sales position there that you can have at this point. And it's been an awesome path for me so far, and super fortunate.
Raise your hand at the table, though, or maybe say aye if you thought to yourself, I'm getting out of food service and never coming back.
Yes.
Because I definitely have said that, and I've heard a lot of people say it. But there's a magnetic pull there that just sucks you right back in. You miss the fun dynamic of it.
Escaping, I'm afraid.
What are some of the most obscure ways or most random ways you've heard about a job or have applied for a job? Does anybody have a crazy story?
I remember being down the shore one time, down the Jersey Shore, and seeing one of those airplanes with the thing on the back of it.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with my job or anything, but I think that was one of the most obscure things that I've seen that I thought was pretty cool.
What was the job? Do you remember?
I think it was a beachcomber. So it was just So basically selling those beachcomber things on the beach.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the movie. Have you seen the movie Spaceballs?
Yeah. Well, not that kind of comber, but yeah.
I wonder if that job's still available.
I wonder.
I know in 5 years I might be.
What do you love the most about the food service industry?
You know, everybody always says people, but I think there's truth to that. I mean, you know, for those of you that don't know what our association does, we bring people together. We do industry conferences and events. And so I've had the privilege and opportunity to be with so many people from across the industry, you know, chefs and owners to, you know, individuals in marketing and sales and general business unit management at the manufacturing side to distribution to service providers. And there's a type of person that's in the food service industry that is unlike other industries.
Crazy.
A little bit crazy, but everybody cares about each other. And, you know, everybody truly, you know, you have staunch competitors in the same room, but at the end of the day, people want to grow the entire business. Everybody cares about what's happening with the consumer. Everybody wants to do what's best for the industry. And I think that's really unique compared to other industries. And, you know, personally, I mean, you joke about who's wanted to get out of the industry. I had no clue that I didn't know what food service was. When I applied for the job at Technomic and they said, tell me what you know about food service, I looked at them and I said, I like to eat food. I knew nothing. And now, after being in the industry for as long as I have, I can't imagine not being in food service. So it's I feel really passionate about it, and there's just so many good people as part of this industry.
Yeah, I think another thing is just that no 2 days are alike.
Yes.
I mean, I can tell you the most extreme stories that there's no way that my phone could ever ring and I'd be surprised. It's just a matter of keeping calm and dealing with what the issue is. But especially as an operator, not only the people do you get to meet people of all facets of life and are a big part of their day and a big part of their celebrations and a big part of their memories and a big part of all that, which to me is the most rewarding part. But your employees and your culture and everything in between it, it's full circle. It's really everything in life happens in the food industry in kind of in a microscope.
Yeah. when we talk about recruiting, that's part of the thing that we say, or talking about having pride in the company and in the industry, is that we're there for milestones. Maybe not as directly as you are, Erik, because we're not operators, but we're helping connect those dots so that you're celebrating the wedding, you're celebrating the promotion or the graduation, right? And you're just, people connect over food.
Yeah, and then narrowed down to like we could make or break one of your big. I mean, I can tell you, unfortunately, I've been on the back end of this big memory because something went wrong, or vice versa, where they have pictures in their house or anything else because it was one of the best memories of their life with our food in front of them.
And they come back, right? That's like a touchstone, a memory, a connecting point.
Yeah, I've watched. I mean, I've been in numerous weddings that I've been invited to, and now that I've been invited to their baptism parties afterwards and things like that of people that we've introduced people to, or just watching their life progress. I mean, from employees all the way to them being married and being in different fields later or anything else. So it's pretty interesting.
Not to put anybody on the spot, but what's an engagement story gone wrong? Just kidding. You don't have to talk about that. But I would imagine you see probably some pretty interesting.
Yeah, you see,
things.
I've ran straight bars before too, rather before restaurants. So you see some people that meet and make wrong decisions. And
Do you have a pool? Like we know how long this is going to.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you usually know. I mean, as an outsider, you usually know more than they do in the inside because they ignore the one facts. But that's probably a topic to talk about later. that could be a podcast in itself.
Yeah, we'll schedule that one next.
Yeah,
food definitely connects people, and we're such a major part of the culture in general. How do we keep that fresh and interesting? And how do we keep people, how do we get people into our little secret club?
I think that's one of the biggest challenges we're facing right now, right? I mean, when you asked that question earlier, the first thing that came to mind is passion. And I think of that because none of our jobs are easy. I mean, whether you're in operations, whether you're manufacturing, distribution, sales side, support. I mean, there's no glamour to it. Let's be honest. It might appear to be glamorous. It's not. It's hard work. So I think getting people to see past that, right, and understand the benefits and the longevity of it and the fun that you can have and the creativity you can have, I think that's the challenge. I mean, you look around, I can speak on the sales side specifically, there's a huge opportunity right now for the younger generation. Like if I was younger and came into any of our meetings and saw all of the older people that were in the meeting that are in leadership, I would be thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like if I do well and really pay attention to what's going on, there's a tremendous amount of upside here, probably pretty quickly. But getting that out to people, I think, is the challenge, making them aware that this is actually a career path. I
think that and the autonomy of you could change the world, if you will. You can change. I mean, there's some food specials that have caught on that have went worldwide, right? And I mean, there have been certain ways you cook wings, certain way that you cook a burger, certain ways that you, I mean, there's so much. And that's where the passion comes in as it goes from, if you want to do a aggressive special, you have to get with the food vendors and you have to be a team up there. And there's a lot to go in there from the negotiation all the way to the process of until the food's on the plate. So I think there's a lot more that goes into it than people think. And a lot of it needs a bunch of different minds. So I think that's a big thing. It's really collaborative. I don't think there's ever been one successful thing that's happened in one of my restaurants that didn't take a team. It's always, it might start with one person's idea, but then it evolves to what actually works at the end.
Yeah, what's interesting is, the younger generations these days, you think about the Food Network and what you're seeing on TV, even with shows like The Bear and other things like that. Like there's so much in terms of food service and restaurants and how people consider or think about restaurant side. A lot of people, though, when they think about food service, they only think about the restaurant side, right? And so, like for me, I always joke, I grew up in Buffalo. Rich Products was in my backyard. I knew about Rich's. I knew they made certain products for retail. I had no idea that they were one of the leaders within food service. And now that I've been in the industry for a bit and have seen so many of the opportunities on the manufacturing side, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's finance, whether it's R&D and culinary. And so, like one of the things that we talk a lot about as our association, we have an education foundation that provides scholarships and stipends to students in hospitality. And As a matter of fact, just last May, right before our Gold and Silver Plate Awards, we hosted 60 students, 10 different schools to talk about career paths in the future of the industry. And for so many of these individuals, these schools are doing an amazing job of providing curriculum because for a lot of people, they think food service, they just think about flipping burgers. And they don't think about like the broader sense of who's making the food, how's the food getting to the restaurant, like service provider companies like agencies and technology companies, like there's this whole universe of $1.5 trillion universe for food away from home that is just so large, so immense, that sharing that story, like there's so much potential and we're just scratching the surface.
It's awareness too, because it feels like it's everywhere, right? Everybody's benefiting from food service, but we're almost blind to how it's all being handled and what the possibilities are. I do agree with you. I think a lot of it is that's a job that you have in college to work your way through, and then you get a real job. Well, your real job could also be in this amazing industry that we're in. You could use your marketing degree. You could use your business degree. You could use your science degree, whatever that means.
It's been my real job.
Yeah, right. But I mean, like, people don't necessarily see that. And I think even starting young in high school when the kids are doing their aptitude tests and things, it doesn't mean you have to be necessarily in a kitchen. There's a business side of owning restaurants and running the business side of it that is so important.
Especially now with the profit margins being so low and people not wanting to pay as much as we really have to. The business side of it is something that's completely the other side of the world. I think that's why you see a lot of places failing right now is because they're trying to do everything themselves. And they're not bringing people on that are specialized in other things. I know for myself, I mean, everything from the music all the way to accounting. I mean, there's all these different parts. And if you're not proficient at it and you're not the best at it, then you need to get help or you need to source it out. I think it's a big thing that a lot of the old school guys refuse to do. And I think that that's what's really making them drop off right now.
I think even holistically, like I think about when I fill out an application of some kind and ask about occupation, never is food service listed. Right. Sales will be listed.
Never is, right.
It never is listed. So it's not even recognized as an occupation. I don't know what you do to change that. I wish I had a solution. But anytime I see that, I'm like, there's no food service. Where do I put myself?
Even if you think about like technology, right? So technology and AI, I mean, those are all the buzzwords right now. And so many people now are so interested in engineering and those types of, but there's those types of jobs even within food service too. So it's like, how do we as an industry spread that word, whether you're on the operator side or anywhere else? Like these types of jobs are necessary and needed. How do we get people into food away from home or food service?
We have an intern program in one of our regions right now, and it's been interesting getting feedback from them. Some of them were in like R&D or food science, so they had a general idea of what they were applying for. Some of them had no clue, similar to myself, had no clue like what this intern at a food sales agency was going to look like. And I've talked to like people we've brought on before in the past. One person, even after talking to our HR person, thought she was going to be a food blogger. I'm like, a food blogger? So I think there's probably an education awareness piece to it as well that we need to figure out.
Yeah, I think it really is the education. I mean, I don't know anyone in business that in business school, not that I went to business school, but anyone in business school, I know I've spoken at a few colleges, and it really opens their eyes. And I spoke at DePaul and I spoke at Cornell one time. And basically, it was pretty amazing that when I was sitting there, they asked me what I did for a living, and I started out with that. Everyone looked around like, "What the hell is he doing here? Why is he here then?" And when I got into business and how much of the business aspect that I had to learn, and that's where I spend 90% of my time on, it's really interesting. But you could go into marketing, you could go into, I mean, there's so many different fields that you can really go into, and if you're proficient in that you can capitalize right on that and really help a restaurant group out.
Analytics.
Oh, analytics.
It's a huge piece.
Analytics might be the biggest one right now. I know that's what using AI and analytics is what I've really been studying for the last few months to create my loyalty program and do everything like that. So it's really almost it's a conglomerate of all kinds of industries, right? All into one that really makes us up. And I think that's why everyone admits it's the toughest industry. But the reason being is because it's so many different hats you're wearing. And that's why, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing we're trying to get across now is that that's why we need help. we need help from every facet. There's plenty of money to be made in the industry. It's just a matter of getting the right mindset.
Yeah, right before COVID, our association through the foundation did a research project, actually in conjunction with Technomic, and it was called People Future 2025. And the whole concept and idea was asking college-age students, like, how aware of you are food service? How interested would you be? And what we found was there was a big disconnect. We know that the younger generations, they care about purpose, right? Whatever they want to do, they want to connect it with purpose. And so part of the story needs to be, what is the purpose and how can we make sure that your job and your career feels fulfilling? And you can do that. We know that. 4 of us know that through the course of our careers. And we're actually in the midst of kind of revamping that study, kind of as a refresh 5 or 6 years later. Is something that we're looking to launch later this year into next year, and really interested in the learnings. But, you think about STEM and some of the, what we grew up with and some of the courses even before you get to college. I think we're all talking about that, which is how do you get people even before they start making those decisions as far down the pipeline as possible to get people to even know that it's an industry of choice.
Yeah, hearing that, I think that another big part, something that I think I've done well in my career with, is really putting the different facets together. Where it's like my rep for a liquor product, if they're helping to do an event, I team them up and bring everyone together from the event coordinator all the way to the general manager, all the way, and see it go all the way through. And then at the end, recap and really thank everyone together. I think that that's something that we a lot of places use it just as different segments, right? Your beer vendor has never met the events coordinator, or your events coordinator has never met the general manager even possibly. So and putting it all together, I think it's something that we can definitely do a better job of, is really showing the successes all together and making it more of a purpose, as you said.
Yeah. I
think sometimes in our industry, it takes so many that you're worried about yourself and what's under your umbrella versus rather the whole big picture. I mean, back to where'd that food come from, right? in the beginning, or where'd that beer come from in the beginning, I think is could take it even further.
Absolutely.
Tech and pharma get a lot of attention and draw a lot of maybe young talent because they see it as up and coming and rising and you can make a lot of money. How do we shine a spotlight on the food service industry to recognize that same potential for earners who are looking for a long-term career?
Yeah, I think tech has figured it out. I know with how many phone calls I get a day. I think that's definitely, people have realized that we are the loyal customers, that our industry, once you get into it, there's a lot of we're very loyal. I mean, we use the same vendors. We don't want to mess with a broken thing, whether it be a POS company or a loyalty program or a rewards program or whatever in between. But I think that side has really figured it out. I think that they have figured out that our industry is important. I know that I did not used to get calls 10 years ago.
Yeah.
From people in a different industry. Now my phone rings off the hook. I'm sure during this podcast, I'll have a couple POS companies reaching out with a new POS.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe we can do a better job of really mapping out, like, what does next steps look like? And I hate to say this, but maybe it's not with your company, right? Yeah. I mean, we've had a ton of success hiring people from operations, culinarians, trained chefs that don't want to do that lifestyle anymore. And so, they have better flexibility. They don't have to work on the weekends. They don't have to work on holidays. Not every chef can sell, right? So that's a fine line, but we've been successful at bringing them on board. We've tried outreach to culinary schools, but the amount of money that you pay now to go to a culinary school, people are going to be back of the house or front of the house, whatever they're...
At least give it a try.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. That's their goal. So even getting to that level has been a challenge.
Yeah, I think about it just from a different angle, maybe more from the manufacturing side and kind of the business unit side. I spoke with a young woman who's either a junior or senior at university who came to our summit in May, and she is in the hospitality management school at her school, and she was saying how she started thinking hospitality management. She's going to work at a hotel, or she's maybe going to work in a restaurant. Maybe she wants to open her own. But through some of these schools, they're infusing this curriculum about there's more to hospitality than just hotels and restaurants. There's this whole other side of it around how are you making the food? How are you getting the food? There's all these other jobs too. And all of a sudden now she's interning this summer with one of our manufacturer members of the association, and I believe in a marketing role. That's just one small example. Of course, you need to scale that, but there's a lot of really great schools that are not just culinary schools. They're focusing on supply chain. They're focusing on marketing. They're focusing on finance, whatever else it is. And I think companies just need to meet, their applicants where they are. So if Monster and Career Builder are no longer, and newspaper ads aren't there, okay, so where are they looking for jobs? And, maybe at certain career fairs, maybe there's other opportunities to, directly market to their core audience and who they want. But, you're right. I mean, tech and AI, I mean, we hear that from a consumer standpoint. Kids are growing up with that type of stuff. And, it's kind of like a sexy industry. And food service sometimes is and sometimes isn't, right? And it has a little bit of a different aura around it. So part of it is just storytelling and sharing some of the success stories that happen in our industry and showing people no matter what side of the coin it is. And you don't have to be a dishwasher to a CEO. There's a lot of people that have done really great work like that, but sometimes it's not so relatable. Sometimes it's more of, okay, I can start as a dishwasher and then I can be a manager and then maybe a general manager. Like showing a career path, I think, is really important no matter what side of the industry it is.
And maybe there's crossover, right? Maybe it's not delineated against just operations or just sales or just manufacturing, right? There's other avenues outside of that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the big thing is that you can jump with your experience and just operating. You can jump over to. I mean, I've seen it happen a lot. Some of the best people in other industries or in other aspects of our industry, I should say, have started as operators, and that just wasn't right for them because of the weekends, because of the hours, something like that. There's a lot of, and that just comes back to education, I think, and us just talking more. I think that's another big thing. Most industries, as you said, on that checklist, which we don't show up on. I could go into this for hours, but really that we don't come together, I don't think, as much as we should. Where I think COVID, that's why everything got taken out on us, really, where it was like we didn't have a united front. Of course, I sit on the Illinois Restaurant Association, I'm a big part of, and Sam and those guys do a great job down there. But at the same time, it's not like a united front for all of you guys and for everything together. And that's why where every other industry has something like that, it seems like. So we kind of get picked apart. I know personally, I would be lost without my mentors. I mean, even today on the way here, I called two people that some might call friends, but I call them mentors.
Yeah, right.
And then I think it's giving back too. I'll admit that people will probably say I give back more than anyone, but it's a little bit selfish too because I learn a lot when I'm teaching someone else or when I'm helping someone that was in the shoes that I was when they had nothing or I had nothing. I mean, right, going from here to do a training seminar with kids that are less fortunate, that's kind of how I grew up, and telling them my story. So I think that that's a really big thing. But once again, I'm just not doing just out of the kindness of my heart, but then I get something out of them or an idea or a question of why I did something, and it really helps. So I think that that's what makes the world really turn in every industry. I hope I can only speak from my behalf.
Right.
And it's probably the biggest thing that makes it special.
I know I've always been curious about other industries. Like we see each other, we hug each other, like it's very friendly. It doesn't sound like y'all have either really worked outside of this industry, so I have no reference point. Like, do other people, like even at food shows,
we're way cooler.
I guess so. Yeah, that's what it is.
I've had team members over the course of the years come from other industries who essentially say food service is a different animal. A lot of extroverts versus some introverts in some other industry and other things like that. You talked about giving back and giving forward. As a matter of fact, I'm coming up on kind of the anniversary of starting it in the industry, and something on my phone. Sometimes you get memories and things like that. So it was actually a message to my sister who had helped me, navigate and was giving me all these introductions to people who she had worked with. This was almost 20 years ago now. People who didn't know me at all. I was a college kid. She was passing along my resume, getting informational interviews. And I still remember the feeling that I had then that whenever I'm in a position to help somebody out who's looking for a job, I'm going to do anything and everything that I can because these people don't know me from Adam, but they were willing to go out of their way to help me. And so the whole giving forward, giving back thing is, to me personally, is something that I adhere to and I want to do anything that I can, which is why anytime anybody ever reached out to me and says, hey, unfortunately I lost my job, or hey, I'm in the market, can you keep my eyes and ears out? I'm not always able to help, but I'll do everything that I can to.
I think that's part of the magic of the industry, too, is that it's not like, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but we're not doing a surgery where you need a certain set of skills before you're able to contribute, right? You can learn as you go, and you can benefit from just spending time with others, just being in the same room or being next to someone while they're on a call putting out a fire in some way or another also helps you grow. You don't need to have your hands in the skull to be able to do that.
I think it's, like I said, I have not been in any other industry, so I'm not really certain. But I think experience matters in our industry more than anything. And yes, to start, you don't need some big degree or something like that, but the experience. And I think that's the one trouble that we kind of have is that people don't want to spend the time. They want to jump right into making $150,000.
Yes.
They want to make right into being a millionaire. And I'm just like, well, that's interesting. So did I.
Right.
But it took 20 years, right? I think that's the really big thing is that the experience of where you got to work your way up. Where a lot of other industries, you really don't have to. You can really just jump in. So I think that's probably the toughest part and why we have the most struggles. But the reward is well worth it, I think. And that's the emphasis that we have to give is that a lot of other jobs, people are stuck in a 9 to 5 that they make the same salary and they get a 3% raise every year and they wait for their bonus. I think of Chevy Chase and Christmas Vacation. And they as again, I don't have personal experience, but and you see them and they have the same title and maybe they get another title 5 years later where this you can fly up the charts fast, but you have to put the time in and you really have to really care and have the passion.
Are there any myths or myth busting we can do around what a corporate job is versus what our job actually is or what is actually possible? Are there any misconceptions we can clear up?
I hate the term a real job.
I'm sorry I said it.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying I hate the term that I know from me saying a real job because I have bartenders making 6 figures. I have general managers that have points of interest that can make millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's dismissive.
It really is. And I think that's the biggest misconception, if you will. You can make some serious money in it. You can have a full-time job. I mean, we offer a matching 401k. We do. I mean, we have health benefits. We do everything like that where it's a real job. And people that say, when are you getting a real job to some of my employees is something that I'm usually pretty calm, pisses me off.
Right.
I think referencing $1 trillion, people don't think about it like that, right? Yeah. I mean, they don't think of it as being like such a big industry. We've even done some research, like even looking at Fortune 500 companies, how many of those are in food service?
Yep.
It is amazing, but still it's just not perceived as
I think
an
we're the
industry.
only job sector under government, I believe. Is it second compared to government? Don't fact check that.
I think you're right.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, I know healthcare is up there too, but yeah, we're definitely up there. And I agree with you. I mean, $1.6 trillion out there. And people just don't even think about the whole supply chain. They go out to a restaurant and they don't, I mentioned it before, they don't think about where did the food come from? How did the food get here? What are all the points that get it here too? And so, think about the misconceptions and the myths. It's like, you talk about purpose. People can have real purpose in all angles of this industry. You could work on the operator side. You could work on the manufacturing side. You can work in distribution. There's a purpose. I think about a lot of our manufacturer members who, they make a new limited time offer, for example, for a chain restaurant or for somebody else, and all of a sudden you see all the commercials and your friends are talking about it. It's like, hey, I had to do with that, or a new product launch or whatever it might be. I mean, there's so many things where you can drive purpose and a true career path. I've seen a lot of individuals, kind of start off entry level. And when you look at some of our member companies, the average tenure is like 20, 30 years. And you've seen people who literally start, at the very bottom and have very senior executive positions. There's a lot, like you said, Erik, like if you put in the work and you're committed to it, you may not make $150,000 in day one, but there's some really good opportunities in this industry.
It's funny when people ask me, like casually, and I don't have a vested interest. I just say I sell food. I'm not going to get into the whole my mom still thinks I'm a caterer. So, and maybe I need to do a better job of explaining exactly what that means and being more intentional about it. But I mean, you start thinking about all the pieces of it, right? I mean, there's a ton to it.
Mm-hmm.
How would we market food service on LinkedIn or on social media? If we were going to create a campaign to get the next generation considering this industry as a potential and not just kind of stumbling their way into it like I did, how would we do that? What would some key elements to it be?
And once again, I think it's just education. I think it's just, there really has to be, it's all of our jobs are so demanding, and that there's in life, that is there an industry, I mean, that really is focused just on that, a recruiting side of it. And I think once again, that's because of the United Front, that if we all came together and put a little bit of resources in each, maybe a bucket or something like that, a kitty that every other industry has, every other industry has that, from roofing all the way to IT. I mean, they have these conferences, like we go to our conference, and you guys know what it's like, right? There's not a recruiting window that I've ever seen. Probably the only one, right? Now that I think about it, like I would assume that most other industries have that whole recruiting aspect. And I think that's just because we're kind of segmented, even though we all love each other and we all work together in some ways. We're not inviting each other to our home parties and things like that. I think that's the biggest thing that we can do is really get together as one and figure out things like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely, I mean, you segmented, fragmented. The industry is so fragmented, and there's so many different, you think about the operator world, right? You got so many independent operators in restaurants. You've got the chains. You've got, all the non-commercial or on-site type of operations too. And that's just the operation. That's just the operator side, not to mention the fact that, now convenience stores are coming into the space and grocery stores are coming into the space in terms of food away from home. Then you got the manufacturing, distribution, everybody else in between. I mean, that's one of the things that we're championing on our end to the best of our abilities is bringing everybody together. Kind of, it's one of the reasons that we were IFMA, the International Foodservice Manufacturers Association, for about 70 years. And last November, we rebranded to be IFMA The Food Away from Home Association. And, our goal is to be that central hub to bring everybody from across the supply chain to talk about the big issues. Now, as it relates to marketing kind of the next generation and bringing people in, I think that's the next iteration of what we're hoping to accomplish. But we understand it's no small feat, right? This is something where we're competing with a lot of other industries. And, to your point, Erik, we all have to band together to the best of our abilities and, really share that message on LinkedIn and, everywhere else that we can.
I'm wondering if we can get, this is a horrible comparison, but it's the only one I can make. You know how if there's a scary episode of something and then at the end they're like, if you are suffering abuse, call this hotline. I'm thinking like on the bear, is there, hey, if this appeals to you, call this number, go to this website. There's a career for you here. I mean, right? How do we tap into the popularity of that stuff?
Like you said, that things like the bear and things like that, that's the first show that I've seen that's realistic.
Yeah. Right.
That is, I mean, I look at it like, wow, that's really how I feel sometimes in real. If you could do another show that has all of us tied together, right? I mean, I think that's not unfortunately, but that's really how a lot of people are getting their education. It's not just by a snapshot or one podcast. It's really something that gets the masses.
It's so funny you say that about the bear. I don't have the operations experience anywhere near that you do, but so many people from operations have said how realistic, like what a great job they have done really capturing the day-to-day and the stress and the family aspect of it. And
I can't tell you how many times people have walked up to me and since that show has come out and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it's hard to explain, but I mean, even my wife, maybe it's like, she watched this. She's like, did you see that? I'm like, I lived it. That was last week. Why I came home and I didn't talk to anyone. Yeah. So it's really interesting, but up until then I'll never forget from becoming I think I was a district manager to an owner, just a different respect you get from people. And I'm like, I'm not really doing anything different. I'm actually making less money right now. Like, yeah, but it's kind of funny how just uneducated everybody is with what we do. And I think it's one, we can look in the mirror and it's our fault, but I think at some point us as leaders have to get together and fix it instead of just complaining about it. And I think there is a roadmap to get there.
There's a seat at the table for everyone and for whatever your passion is, if it's marketing or if it's photography or whatever it is. There's space in food service for you. We just have to figure out how to unlock that and invite everybody to the table. There's a lot of criticism on future generations. There's a lot of negativity around that. But there is also an exciting opportunity with the next generation where we can grow, where we can create, where we can invite them in and really get them to feel what we all feel about this industry and the passion. How do we do that?
This topic resonates with me just because recently I've been doing a lot of consulting and it's all you hear about the new generation. And I say, F that. I mean, if it's the masses, then you got to figure it out. Right. And right now I spent the last 2 months consulting for a group and it was really just kind of recreating my whole handbook. I mean, really to like, people don't want to work doubles anymore. They don't want to work the whole weekend, but guess what? That's all right. That's completely okay because it helps with labor costs if you look at it that way. And you have to train more. The biggest thing is that they are different. They're very different. And you can either go down with the fire or you can change. You can be different too. And I think that's a big thing that I've done is really pivot to my whole handbook is being rewritten as we speak. And it's really sitting down with them and seeing their strengths because they are actually, in my mind, they're a lot more intelligent. They have a lot more resources, but they're also not going to walk uphill both ways to go to work. But I mean, that was our generation that, or the generation before us, than us. We were willing to work 150 hours a week. It's just different, right? But I think the biggest thing is that if that is the most important thing, we have to spend the most amount of our time working on it. So, I mean, that's what people don't realize is like, can't find good employees, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, what do you put into your training program? How much are you training them? How much are you motivating them? And right now they want to be led by example. So my big thing is motivate, educate, motivate, lead by example. Educate, motivate, lead by example. And I think that's a big thing. And once again, take your time. And if the employees are the most important thing and training is the most important thing, take the 80 hours you work a week or whatever we work a week and see how much of your time did you spend on that. If it's not the most, then that's where you're having your problem.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. I mean, I think I feel like with every generation, the next generation, there's always issues with the next generation. I mean, I remember when I was entering the workforce, I'm a millennial. Everybody talked about the millennials, so they don't have the work ethic. I think I've seen a lot of my peers, and I hope that I can also consider myself in the same bucket where millennials have been successful. And, I feel the same way about the next generation with Gen Z and completely agree with you where, listen, if there's a certain way that a certain demographic works, then we got to meet them there. And I work with some amazing people who are, just entered the workforce or are recently in the workforce who, they learn a little bit differently and they act a little differently, but they do things really, really well. And, I think it's just really important for us to, I love your mantra, like lead by example there. Lead by example. And certainly what worked maybe 20 years ago doesn't work now, but that's always going to be the case, no matter what generation you're talking about. I'd venture to guess that what happened, 60 years ago didn't work for the next generation 40 years ago. So, I think it's just something that we always have to make sure that we're reinventing ourselves and making sure the messaging gets across to whoever we're working with across demographics.
I'm always looking for good people, just good people. Something in my interviews that I do is I throw a piece of trash on the ground as they're walking in and see if they pick it up. That's one of my biggest things.
That's
brilliant. Yes.
Yeah, I do things like that, and I don't ask them the prototypical questions. I ask them just like who's your first friend? Are they still your friend? Mm-hmm. Like things like that. So I think, yes, I'll always be looking for good people, but yet their specialty, like I really don't hire people based on experience, so it's a bad question. But what you're getting at, it's always going to change. It's always going to evolve. But I think that their education and everything has to evolve with it. And I think, again, that's the big thing that hasn't happened right now is education's behind. They're still teaching things the way we learned it. Maybe math has started to change.
Yeah,
whatever
there's some crazy math out there now.
I actually enjoy it, but you go with my kids. My wife and I fight about it all the time. But I think that's the big thing is that education is lagging behind on how much technology should change. People are scared of AI. I mean, people weren't even scared of the internet. I don't know anyone that doesn't have are we all going to say, oh, AI is taking everyone's jobs? We didn't say that when the internet came out. We're all excited to jump into it. So I think with how things are happening quickly, people are just scared of change.
Mm-hmm. And using AI to enhance efficiencies, right? And increase sales and take the admin out of it, make life easier. That's where I think the younger generation, they're not all that wrong, right? Yeah. I mean, they figured out you don't have to kill yourself. You can go enjoy your life and still have a good career, and you can use AI to make your life easier. I mean, when I have the opportunity to hear some feedback or they ask questions, I love it because they're looking at it a completely different way than we are. Yeah. Myself specifically, used to doing it the same way, and they're saying, why are we doing it this way? And I'm like, why are we doing it this way? I don't know. And it just, I think it gives you the opportunity to make yourself better too, and as an organization. Yeah,
I think a story that I was told probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I was on a resort in Mexico, and I met the owner at the time of Netflix, and it was picking his brain in the pool just about different things, and probably was annoying him a little bit, but whatever. And I remember him telling me that basically his biggest advice would be to have one-on-ones, interview the youngest people in your company always. And what he said is that's what changed them. They got him over the hump versus Blockbuster, because he interviewed a younger person. The younger person said something along the lines of, if I could change one thing, what would it be? He goes, I was binge watching whatever show last night, and I had to listen to I had to watch the credits and then listen to the song in the beginning. There should be something you can skip that. They came up with a skip button, and he said that the amount of time that it took him to get the skip button, it just catapulted them ahead of Blockbuster, and they just crushed it. And I was sitting there thinking, like, the next day I interviewed, I had one-on-one. The next week I had one-on-ones with the youngest people in my company, and it's crazy how they look completely different. So something that I learned along the way, and kind of a cool piece of information.
It goes back to your comment earlier about the reciprocal learning, right? You're mentoring, but you're getting just as much from that group as you're giving. Guys, thank you so much. This has been such a great, lively, and passionate discussion. I'm so honored to have you all here. As we wrap up, we're going to play a little game. You were asked to be a guest on an episode of The Bear. What is the role of the character that you would play, or that would represent you, and who would play you?
I'll start out. I would be the consultant, played by Brad Pitt, obviously.
Nice.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So that or one of the Baldwin brothers, who someone told me I look like earlier. So,
that would be a much more accurate.
yeah. But it's my dream. So yeah, and I would be a consultant just to kind of give my experience. I mean, the show is just great with how realistic it is and a lot of things. And I've watched episodes numerous times, which I never do with any show, and just go back and think of what I would have done and everything else. So I think as a consultant would be my perfect role for just really helping them say, hey, here's what comes in season 4. Here you go. So I think that's what it would be.
Since I've got a few people from kind of the sales rep side here that may or may not be one of yours, I'm not going to choose that. I'm going to eat at the restaurant. I'm going to be a consumer. I'm going to dine. I'm going to have a great meal. Bradley Cooper is going to play me.
Love it.
Because, uncanny resemblance, of course. And I'm going to enjoy the food that comes, the service that comes with it. And that's my answer.
I would have to say probably the sister, more of an orchestrator. That normally ends up being my role. I can't remember her name. I apologize. And I'm going to go with I'm going to date myself here, but Meg Ryan, a Meg Ryan reference. So.
Love it.
Yeah.
2 Brads and a Meg. Yeah, 2 Brads and a Meg. All right. My role, I think, would be delivery person. Walk in and out, hopefully unnoticed, but contributing in a meaningful way. Yeah. And who would play me is Danny DeVito. I think, again, uncanny resemblance.
Of course. Love it.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Have a
the
great
opportunity.
day.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Bridge to Local with Affinity Group, where manufacturers and local operators connect for success. Stay tuned for more insights and visit AffinitySales.com to see how we can help drive your business forward. See you next time.